Professor Breen Brown's research shows that vulnerability fosters good emotional and mental health. It is a sign of courage. We become more resilient and brave when we embrace who we truly are and what we are feeling. The Vulnerable Scientist podcast is a space for scientists to tell their honest and authentic stories. I am your host, Sarah Nyakeri, who happens to be a scientist, informal science communicator, and I help scientists create personal websites. If you want to support this show, go to www.patreon.com/thevulnerable-scientist. You can also follow this podcast on all social media platforms at TV Scientist Pod. So, Lilian, at this point, you've just gotten a feel of who you are. You've just talked about things that are not really related to science, but they're related to science in some sort of way. And you've got to see who you were before you when you were a little girl, like who you are, where you brought up, and you've gotten to know you a bit more better. So at this point, I would like to know more about the science. Okay. So I'm assuming at this point you're doing a PhD, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, in bioinformatics. Now, before that, what were you doing?
Oh wow. Should I just start from the top and then move on to now how I got to the PhD?
Oh, okay, great. So, maybe you could first fill us in of what is vector control, or you want to start from? I would like maybe a snippet of what you're doing right now. Like, could you explain to someone in just a small summary what is this that you're doing? What kind of computational research, vector control, this thing is? Yeah, bioinformatics. What is it?
Okay, so to explain what I'm doing right now, then I'd have to also explain what I did right before I started this PhD. So, I'm doing my PhD in bioinformatics, which usually when I'm explaining it to people who aren't in the scientific field, I'd just say computational biology. Although when you're in the scientific field, then you would know there's sort of a difference, although it's a very thin line there. So it's mostly you're mixing it up, a hybrid of computers and biological sciences. And the main focus of my study is this really interesting microorganism that we discovered during my master's. So I'll just talk about what I did for my master's and then now how it phased into this PhD.
Okay, before that, now I feel like we need to get a feel of like the whole journey. So I just wanted you to mention what is this that you're doing and all that before we can get through back to before getting into this whole thing, before getting into university, before everything, like what was going on behind there. Could you take us through that? I don't know where you would like to start. I don't know if it's primary, high school. Just get a feel of how you got into doing something related to science in your university before you tell us what it is. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I'll start with high school because with primary school I was very open-minded because like I mentioned before, I wanted to be an astronaut and a doctor and a scientist and everything all rolled up into one. But when I got into high school, that's when I discovered that I really wanted to be a doctor. And I feel like this is what my journey through high school would be what most people actually also talk about, where your head is set on being a doctor and then it turns out differently once you get there. But in high school, my headspace, my main focus was being a medical doctor. That's what I knew I wanted to do. I was getting my straight A's, working hard, and in my head, I know what being a doctor is all about, and that is what I want. If it's fixing someone's body, if it's opening up whatever, where people were at the time in high school, people would be very traumatized about thinking about maybe working on a cadaver. But then in high school, because I didn't have that hands-on experience, I was like, yeah, I can do it. Why are you so scared? It's just like, it's biology. It's interesting what's happening underneath our bodies. Why would you be scared? So all through high school, I knew that was where my calling was at, being a medical doctor.
Which high
And
school?
I was in, I started at Limuru Girls High School, but I was there for like, as, as I almost said semester, one term, and then I moved to Moi Girls High School in Nairobi. That's Cabs.
Well, why do you want
And
to tell us more about that, like that transition, like what was
the transition.
happening? Yeah.
Okay, so the main reason why I moved schools from Limuru to Moi Girls was actually, it's very petty when I talk about it, but I used to get very homesick. And this was the first time I was in a boarding school. And now I don't know what I had in my mind when I thought of boarding schools, because I thought probably of, when you have sleepovers with your friends or your cousins, it's always fun and games. But the minute my parents dropped me off at Limuru, and then I realized I'm all alone, and then
Yeah.
being introverted, now I have to start making new friends. How do you even
Friends.
start? And it's very daunting. And now this is the getting out of the comfort zone when you are not ready. And
Yeah.
it's, yeah. And the thing with Limuru Girls, it was sort of on a hill. And if you look out when you're going to the dining hall, you can see Nairobi City, you can see KICC, and it's looking all pretty. And you're like, my parents are somewhere out there, and I'm all the way here in this cold. Limuru is also very, very cold. And every time I would go for meals, or especially during dinner when the lights in Nairobi are all out and it's looking so beautiful, I would feel terribly homesick and miss my parents. And after the first term, I just talked to my parents, and I told them I don't think I can be able to go back to Limuru Girls because now it's affecting me mentally. I haven't made any new friends, and I just need to get somewhere else. So then I sometimes feel bad that I had to make my parents go to through looking for schools for me. But then luckily I had done really well in my primary school exams, so it wasn't really
How
that much of
well?
a hassle. Um, I am I supposed to say the marks?
If you want to, there's nothing wrong with
Okay,
it.
yeah, I got 443 out of 500,
Wow.
and yeah, so I had done well, and my
Did you
hopes
know
were
your rank in nationwide?
nationally. Hmm, I don't know. Nationally, I'm not
Oh,
so
you
sure,
don't.
but
Okay.
yeah, I'm not sure. It must have been around 175 or something, but I'm not sure. Those are the kinds of things that your parents would never forget, but me, I forgot
You
my
forget.
ranking.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and actually my eyes had been set on Kenya High School, and I remember because I got the 443, that was actually the cutoff to getting into Kenya High. So I had thought that I would get into Kenya High, which is a national school. So my head was
Yeah.
just set there. And Limuru Girls was just the placeholder that you put. This is how confident I was. You're just putting that placeholder there, but you're going to go to Kenya High. So even after
Yeah.
my results came out, I knew I was going to Kenya High and not Limuru, which was my second choice. But then things happened the way that they did. Despite my cutoff being what Kenya High was looking for, I still didn't make it. And it's also interesting because what my mom was telling me when they're now selecting the students for the schools, if the cutoff is for 43, and obviously it's not just one or two people that have gotten for 43,
Yeah.
it's a number of people. So they're going to be choosing um alphabetically based on the surname. And my surname
Oh.
starts with an A, but still I didn't make it. So
Oh
how
my
God
God.
works, it's very interesting.
How did you
And
feel?
at the time I was heartbroken. I cried. And right now I usually get really embarrassed to tell people just how much I broke down, knowing that I didn't get to my school, the school that I always wanted to go to for years and years, and how confident I was. I wish you could have seen me in primary school. I was so confident that I was going to this school, Kenya High School, but the odds were stacked against me. And you know, when God says, this isn't for you, it's this other path, then it just happens that even if everything, all the factors show that they could lead you to point A, if God has said it's point B or path B, that's the one that you're going to find yourself in. So yeah, that's how I found myself in Limuru Girls, and how I dropped out of Limuru Girls to get to Moi Girls, because I had, sorry, let me just take a sip of water.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. So because I had gotten really good marks in my primary examinations, and also in Form 1, after the first term, that's when a lot of parents pull out kids from different high schools to switch, so I was lucky enough to get an opportunity at Moi Girls High School, Nairobi, and that's where I did all of my high school. I think at some point, my aunties or uncles would make fun of me and be like, "Are you still sticking it out?" Because they thought, I would again be homesick. But then it was pretty easy for me to enjoy my time in Moi Girls because it was in Nairobi. And
Yeah.
an additional bonus to it is that my dad used to work in Gong Road, right next to the school. It was like
Oh.
a 10-minute walk from his office to my school, and he would always come every week and probably leave a note with the secretary just to encourage
Oh.
me.
Oh
And you
man.
see, now that's all the motivation you need. So, yeah, so my
Just
time
what
in
what
my
will
job
they
was
not
good.
say?
Mostly it would be like a quick update of what's going on at home, and then he would put in an encouragement or a verse that would say, "Keep strong, we're all praying for you, you've made us proud," and then it would be like I stopped by just to say hi. And usually
Oh man.
when we would get the notes is, so they would put like in the dining hall they would put a list of people who need to go to the secretary to pick maybe some package that has been brought by their parents or their guardian. So I would always go to the dining hall and my name would always be there. Every week
Wow.
my name would always be there. And it's just that those little notes, they keep you going. They keep encouraging you and motivating you. And yeah, it's one of the best aspects of my high school life, having that constant motivation from my parents. And sometimes it wouldn't just be my dad's notes, it would be something like, so he would tell my sister and brother and mom that he would pass by at my high school maybe on Friday, and they would all write personal notes.
Oh.
And with kids, it's usually interesting to see the sort of crooked handwriting, but then
Yeah.
all the love, all that. I mean, yeah, I think that is one of the biggest motivations that I've had in my life. Yeah.
That got me emotional. Oh my goodness.
It
I'm just
almost got me
imagining.
too.
I'm just imagining. And shout out to your
Hmm.
dad. I'm just
Hmm.
imagining that this is a kid, because you are a kid. You're a teenager, but still a kid.
Yeah. Hmm.
You are so used to be at home, your comfort zone.
Hmm.
Then
Hmm.
now you're in this new environment. You have to make friends, and you still have to do well in
Hmm.
school, and then your dad just they support you through, they support your decision, because not many students, like, they will just say, I don't want to go to this school, she's still a good school, I want to switch to be closer home, and their parents go up and down, still look for that school, and even on top of that, they still go ahead and they don't send necessarily money, they don't send any materialistic things, just a note,
Yeah,
it's
just a
like
note,
a
and it's
reminder we're
enough.
still here. Yeah. And that reminds me of the kind of love that people, even in relationships, or in parent child, or friend kind of relationships, where people think that the only way you can express love is in form of some sort of material, some sort of gift. They forget that you can always express your love or your support through a small note, just a small note, just to
Yeah,
remind.
just a small note would change
Yeah,
everything. It
yeah,
means the world, especially to people who are feeling a bit alone
alone.
at the
Yes.
time, and just knowing that this person constantly has you in their minds, it's very motivating. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now that was the highlight. Do you want to tell us about a low or another highlight during your high school?
Um, uh, High school highlights. Uh,
Or low light? Is there something like that though?
I mean, yeah. The low points of my high school was, I guess, it would be um when you lose someone close to you and you're in boarding school. So I lost my grandmother and my uncle while I was still in high school. And at the time, the policy that the high school had was that you cannot leave school unless someone
Some
closer to
parent.
you, like your brother or sister or parents, had passed away. But if it's the extended family, then you don't have to leave school. And still, in my heart, I feel like that shouldn't be the ideal situation, or
Yeah.
because how it was handled was that now I just got, and they wouldn't allow your parents or your family to come and sit with you
See.
and tell you that grandma has passed away or uncle has passed away. So you would just get a note that said, grandma has passed away. We tried to come and talk to you, but the school does not allow it. And now you're alone in school, you don't have any relatives, you just have probably really good friends, but none of them are really sharing this loss with you, so you have to process it on your
By
own. So
yourself.
the so my lowest was when my grandma died when I was in Form 2, and actually it was around lunchtime, and we were going to the dining hall, and I saw my mom coming to going to the administrative block, and she waved at me, and because I know school rules, you cannot talk to your parents, I just waved back, but then I could see there's something not
Oh.
right just based on how her face was crestfallen, but I was just excited to see her. Then so I said, I waved, and then I rushed to the dining hall, and then she went to the administrative block. Later she told me that she had gone to talk to the principal to see if I could probably go home, or if she could talk to me and tell me about the loss, but they didn't accept that, and all that she was left to do was to write me a note. So finding from a note that grandma passed away, and this was the first time that someone really close to me, someone that I know, has passed away, it really hurt, and it really broke me, and I think that was my lowest moment. I don't know how I survived through the week, because then I felt so bad. And so my grandma, this was my dad's mom, and I knew that my dad was also going through a lot, just having lost his mom. It's never easy losing a parent, no matter how old you are. It's never easy. And
Yeah.
knowing that I couldn't be there for my family and that I'm just, away from it all, it felt really bad. That was my lowest moment, and I never talked about it to my parents or my siblings. They don't know it. I had to talk to my best friend at the time because there was no way I could have been able to handle all those emotions and alone. So I'm thankful that my another highlight of my high school days was that I got really good friends that I'm still friends with up until
Wow.
today, that were able to support me through that period. And it's sad that you didn't even have teachers that could be able to go to talk to you or take you through the whole, yeah.
Money.
But yeah, that was low. That was really low, and I think I lost it at some point in form two. My grades actually started to drop, but then I recovered. I just remembered what I was working towards, and I kept pushing. But yeah, that was my lowest moment in high school.
Thanks for sharing.
Hmm.
Oops. Just a
Hmm.
minute.
Okay.
Oh, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Hmm. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, you're talking about you transitioning to your university before I
Oh
interrupted you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. So let's get right back on track.
Yeah.
Um, so
You are
like
still
I
on track
said,
though. Mm.
yeah. An interesting sidetrack to the main track, but yeah, I'm with
Yeah.
it. In high school, I had mentioned how I knew, but I think also I had gotten a bit of some cockiness in me because I knew I was going to be a medical doctor, and my grades and all these teachers that believed in me were always like, yeah, you can do it, you can be a doctor. So again, when it came to now choosing the campus the campuses I wanted to go to and the programs that I wanted to apply for, obviously my first choice was now medicine. But
Okay.
then because now you have to fill these other gaps, what's your second option? What's your third option? I then had to look at, so what is the closest to medicine I can get to? And there was this interesting new degree that bachelor's degree that they called biomedical sciences, and I was like, it has medical in it, why not? So I put that as my second choice, but in my head I knew, it's medicine I'm going for, whatever happens.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, or fortunately, now I can say fortunately, but then it was unfortunately,
Fortunately
I
then.
didn't get, yeah, I didn't get to do medicine. My grades didn't cut it at all. And
How many? How did you get? Like, how are your grades?
um I got I got an A minus,
Mm-hmm.
and with an A minus straight up, you won't be able to get into med school because now that's just, you have to have an A and a very strong A at that,
Yeah.
not just
Yeah.
any A. Yeah. So I got an A minus
And not
of, I
because you
think,
can't do medicines, just that the
yeah,
competition for the
yeah,
medical slots
exactly.
is very high.
Yeah, very. So I remember when I discovered that, when I so my grades after KCSE, and I just knew it's not going to be medicine. And I remember how my mom was so adamant into, are you sure this is the dream you want? Because we can try and make it work. But then it would bring me back to the memories of high school, how I dropped out of Limuru, and how my parents really fought for me. And I'm like, now I am 18. I cannot do this to them. Now they want to, you know, get me into like a parallel program, and now it's going to be a lot of money, and there has to be a reason I haven't gotten this, because I knew like all through high school, that the grades I'm getting would get me there. But then with
Yeah.
the final exam, it didn't get there. So there has to be a reason why.
Yeah.
So I just told my mom that there's no need. God has a reason for this. So I ended up doing biomedical sciences. I
Mm-hmm.
joined biomedical sciences at the University of Nairobi. And that
At
was also
the
a very interesting
university.
experience. Yeah, the the University of Nairobi.
Oh, okay. How is
hmm
it the biomedical?
hmm
Why do you say? Tell us why you say that it is fortunately now.
Um, because when I look back realistically, I think even in high school I still had this very childish, innocent mentality where I wasn't looking at things realistically, because in my head I knew I could easily like go through a human body and not feel scared. But then when I actually started now my undergrad in biomedical sciences, this was in Chiromo, and it was very close to now uh,
The
med school first
yeah.
years. And I remember the first semester, it was just me full of envy, looking at this med students doing their things, going to do like to check on cadavers and whatever, and I felt really left out. So it was my process of healing and getting into now accepting that I'm doing biomedical sciences. But seeing the med students, it used to just spark that sort of envy and feeling like I didn't make it. So there was this time, out of curiosity, I just wanted to see what do these people do in their labs, and they had this session with a cadaver, and I tried to join this session, and I could not. I could not. I could not stomach it. And from then I was like, God, you knew this little girl could not manage this. That's why. And I kept insisting, but you knew your plans were worth it. So that's how I found out that, yeah, med school was not meant for me. And then with biomedical sciences, everything that we were taught, or the process, the whole undergraduate, the exposure that we were getting, all led to where I am at now. I feel like that was the best program for me to get to where I am right now. And what's interesting with biomedical sciences at the University of Nairobi was that it was being taught by veterinary faculty. So it wasn't under the School of Health
Oh
Sciences.
yeah.
It was, yeah, it was under vet. And a lot of these people are now vet doctors, and what they're teaching us is based on their knowledge on animals. So you're not just limited to humans, you're exposed to more than just the human body and how it works. Now you're moving to animals and all these things that are happening. So it's a whole new world, and I feel like most of my biomedical sciences, most of my period during my undergrad was just filled with awe, and sometimes questioning myself with like, is this really what I want to do? When maybe, especially during exams, then anatomy exam, they would bring us like muscles from different animals, and you have to identify the muscles and what they do, and you're there on the table trying to figure it out, and you're like, so this is my future, what am I going to do with this? So a lot of that was questioning yourself and also enjoying it at the moment. And even with my undergrad final project, I really enjoyed what I got to do. It was a very simple project, but having that was the first time I was able to like have a project on my own and see to it from the beginning to the end and see how bacteria grow. So my undergrad project was on antimicrobial microbial activity on some common household stuff like onions, using garlic. Does it have any activity
Antimicrobial.
on common bacteria. So just being able to set up that project and working through it, the ups and downs of that was really interesting. And that was the first time that I actually really realized fully that research is what I wanted to do. And at that point, it's when I was like, God, I know I kept bothering you about med school, but research now, this is it. This is the one for me. Research, that's where I'm going from there. So after that undergrad project, that's when I knew, yeah,